Hey guys, welcome to Code Decode. In this video, we are going to look into these 3 microservices interview questions that 90% of the Java developers are being asked nowadays in interviews, and most of us fails to answer in the right proper manner. We mostly do some or other mistakes and we do blunders in these questions. So let's get started and see the very first question. How do we handle the partial failures in microservices? Now what the interviewer is trying to ask you here is that how good do you have an understanding of a distributed microservice system? How good you understand the resilience? And how do you prevent the data inconsistency? So the 3 things is being asked in this question, that how do you handle the partial failures? Now let's give it an example. You have a microservice A, you have a microservice B, microservice C, where A is the order microservice, B is the payment microservice, and C is the inventory microservice. Now a request goes from, suppose, your e-commerce system like Amazon. You place an order. Then you next is redirected to the payment service. Then when payment is successful, the Amazon deducts the inventory from its inventory source. Now what if the payment is taken from you, but inventory is down or the inventory is short? So you are expected 2 phones, but only 1 phone is available at the time. Then what will happen? Even though you have done the payment for your 2 devices, only one will be either fulfilled or the whole order will be rejected because you are one less from the inventory. So this is such a big situation which is very common in most of the microservice systems like e-commerce systems. Then how do you handle such systems? The answer to this is the partial failure is very common in the microservices distributed system due to some service crashes or network issues, and just like a normal asset properties monolith, you cannot roll back because there is no rollback in a single database. Each microservice will have its own database and database transactions. So instead of this, what you can do in microservices, you can use Saga design pattern where you have compensation mechanism. For example, if suppose your inventory failed, you can do a compensation and the revert transaction to give the whole amount of payment back to them and mark the order as cancelled as the inventory is not fulfillable. And this is how you can again come to the consistent state. So what are some real-time solutions for this partial failures? What you can do is you can do some retry or the circuit breaker design pattern where you prevent the overloading of the broken microservice, for example, inventory microservice. There can be the case that inventory is there, but you are not able to fetch the inventory from the system because it is at the end a microservice. It might be down. Then what you can do is you can try once, twice, thrice, whether that pod is coming up. If it is deployed in a Kubernetes service, all the pods tries to come up after some time. So you keep on trying, but only to a limit. And after that, you break the circuit. That circuit, we have already discussed about the retry and circuit breaker mechanism. The second thing is you fall back gracefully, saying that, sorry, our inventory service is down. We cannot fulfill your order at this point of time. The third thing you can do is you can use asynchronous communications and eventual consistency. And fourth, you can use some compensation logic like refund and marking the order as cancelled. The code snippet for that is when you call for the inventory service, if there is a inventory service in place, there should be a fallback mechanism also, which says inventory update failed, taking the fallback action by saying that, sorry, inventory service is down. We are not very sure we will be able to fulfill your order and hence it is being cancelled. Or you can keep it onto the Kafka. As in when the inventory service is up, it will pull it up. It will check whether it has service inventory or not. If it is there, it will fulfill and mark your order as completely deliverable. Else it will mark as cannot be fulfilled, cancelled. So this is how you cope up with the situations of partial microservice failure where inventory service is down and you have taken successfully the payment from the user. This is an unfair deal that you take the payment, you do not deliver. So this is how you handle it.
Hey guys, recently we have launched a course covering an end-to-end full stack application using Angular as front end and microservices and Spring Boot as the back end. Also, we have used Cloud to deploy this application, and we have used CI/CD, that is Jenkins and Argo CD, for continuous integration and continuous deployment. The technologies that we have used is REST-RESTful web services, Spring Boot and microservices for backend, Angular for front end. GitHub we have used for version control system. Also, to make the code unit testable, we have used JUnits. We have used Sonar for code quality checks. Also, for containerization, we have used Docker and Kubernetes. And to deploy this whole application, we have used AWS and multiple services from AWS. Also, we have used SQL as well as NoSQL, that is MongoDB and SQL. On AWS, since for the SQL we have RDS, we have used those services, and Jenkins and Argo CD for CI/CD pipeline. Also, this is an architecture of the application that we have created where the front end is Angular and the back end is microservices. We have used ALB load balancers, Ingress for routing and load balancing. And we have used SQL and MongoDB for SQL and NoSQL DB management with Eureka Server and all those microservices counterparts. Now, this is the CI/CD pipeline. This is the CI/CD flowchart for the application that we have created on local. So, this is something, a flow when you create an application in local, push it to GitHub, create a Jenkins pipeline and do the CI/CD using Jenkins and Argo CD. And at the end, deploy the whole code at AWS EKS. Complete description of this course is covered in a very separate video. The link for that video is also given in the description bar below. And also the link to purchase that course from Udemy is also in the description bar below. So please go and check the description for all these links.
The second very important question with microservices, that how do you trace a request across multiple microservices? This is also we have covered initially as a complete separate video with the micrometer and Zipkins as tracing. So here, when a user places an order and something fails, where do you know exactly in which microservice you have an exception? Because if any exception comes and you don't propagate properly, then you would be able to see 500 internal server error. Now, this 500 internal server error will not be able to tell you exactly where your system went wrong. In such situation, micrometer comes for your rescue, which says that, okay, for whole of your order service, payment service and inventory service, I'm creating a micrometer trace where there's a trace ID and span ID. Trace ID is going to be same across all the three microservices, order, payment and inventory. And span ID is going to be very specific to one particular operation like create order, take the payment and update the inventory. Thus, with that span ID, exact microservice where the issue occurs will be traceable because of this micrometer tracing. And this is called distributed tracing. So how it works? You assign a unique trace ID for each request. So it starts from you placing order, you giving the payment and you reducing the inventory from the service. That is one single request with one single trace ID. And the second is the span ID, which is unique to each of these three microservices. So you pass that unique trace ID to all the microservices via headers so that all the microservices can log the particular trace ID so that you will be able to parse across each microservice how this trace ID went from 1 to 2 to 3. You can use Zipkins, micrometer tracing and all those things to visualize it. The micrometer tracing setup says that tracing enabled as true. That means you have enabled the tracing for Spring Boot application via micrometer and Zipkin as the integration tool. You have added the sampling probability to 1.0. If you can see what it says that 100% of requests will be traced up. If you say only to 50%, which is not usually done, it should never be done. There only 50% of your requests will be traced. This happens when there's a very large amount of requests and very less probability of your request getting errored out, or you need some tracing for it. So you should not do that. The third thing is Zipkin tracing endpoint. This is where your Zipkin server runs locally and this is where your trace ID and span ID gets visualized and analyzed. This is how you inject the tracer. This tracer is the one who helps you manually create the span for each different microservice method like place order, take the payment, reduce the inventory. With this span ID, it tells, hey, the span ID is active right now and see, this is in the try with resources. So when this try block ends, you don't have to explicitly gracefully handle the closing of the span. It will automatically be handled by trace with resources for you. Now this span becomes the current context and so all the downstream components like DB access, other microservice call, Kafka calls will all be attached with this particular trace ID going forward because it is in the scope of this try catch block. And at the end, the span is automatically closed and span and records the completion of this operation. So this helps you trace and debug the distributed system. You can trace how long each service took. And this particular microservice is taking so long to respond, it has become a big bottleneck. And if there is no failure handling mechanism, you can apply the circuit breaker also there. So all the performance bottlenecks are identified here and error across all the microservices are given out of here. Now a third very common question asked to all of us in microservice interview question is, how do you ensure the data consistency? Now there are two types of candidate when it comes to us. They always, even in the banking system, focuses on eventual consistency using choreography, using eventual consistency, but they do not think about the cases where there's a banking system where there's a very high requirement of asset property being followed. And they sometimes end up with 2PC also or 3PC also, which is not recommended in microservice. So if you're going to say 2PC in microservice implementation, they will bombard you with questions because there is very difficult situation when and how you handle the failures with 2PCs. Either you say 3PC or you even go beyond that, but these are not the right solutions. So in the monolith, consistency was very simple because there is one single application, one database, one transaction, rollback is easy, no asset transaction problem, everything is perfectly fine. But when it comes to microservice, each service has its own database, so you cannot apply asset property across different databases because it spans in one database, one transaction only. So you have no asset property transaction available there. Everybody has its own database. If one of the service fail, other might have written the data and now your system becomes inconsistent. For example, if your inventory service failed and you have started taking orders, taking payments, your system is in inconsistent state because you don't know how much inventory you have, but you have taken money from everybody. How bad is that? How bad situation for an e-commerce system? So how do you handle this? You handle this with eventual consistency. So there are two ways. You handle with either with eventual consistency or you handle with microservices where strong consistency is required. So these are two scenarios. Let's first start with the e-commerce system where eventual consistency is fine. You may take the money, but eventually you find out, no, your inventory is down. You refund the money. There is no instant requirement to have the strong consistency in place. So there is always a trade-off between eventual consistency where there is no asset property and consistency followed, or there is a strong consistency required. So how it works? When you use Saga design pattern, you coordinate across services using either choreography or orchestrator pattern. Here, in the eventual consistency and small systems, you can go with choreography where you use the Kafka, RabbitMQ and events. These are used asynchronously. And if any step fails, the previous can be compensated using the compensations. And each step is handled by transactions by individual microservice. But when it comes to banking system, orchestrator becomes the compulsory point. But there again, there's a trade-off because orchestrator becomes the single point of failure. So in the real-time example, suppose order service creates the orders, it triggers the payment service and then it triggers the inventory service to reserve the stock. Now, if inventory fails, you cannot roll back the database just like the monolith one. Rather, what you have to do is you have to give a compensating event by refunding the payment and marking the order as cancelled. So these are the compensation events that you do, and this is how you eventually reach to the consistency that yes, you have taken the payment, but you are not in a state of delivery. You are in an inconsistent state, but you know about this issue. You have logged this issue. You are giving a compensation to the person and you are marking the order as failed. So at the end of this whole flow, you are in consistent state that even though you have taken the money, you have given it back by the refund. And even though you have marked the order as accepted, now you have marked as cancelled rather than delivered because you don't have inventory enough. So eventually you will come into consistent state. And the way to follow this is Saga design pattern, eventual consistency, compensation transaction and outbox pattern. But if you're working on a banking application where data consistency becomes much more critical because you are dealing with money, regulations and customer trust. So what happens if you take the money and you say, okay, I'll give it to your builder and he'll build your house. If you are not consistent properly and you says, okay, after 3 days, I'm adding the money to your builder's bank. What will happen? It will say, okay, for 3 days, I'm not building your house. Your work is on hold. This is how you lose the customer trust. So banking does not allow you to be eventually consistent that much late. So for that reason, you have to make sure that you balance between your microservice benefits and their strong consistency need. So why banking is so much important? Because money transfer must be accurate. It should mandate for no data loss because money loss is the biggest loss a person can handle. Failure can't be tolerated the same way it can be handled in the food delivery apps. So you have to have a balance between microservice benefits with the strong consistency mechanism. So the first choice is you can either, if it is not so complicated, go back to your monolith one, at least for your databases. Or you can have some anti-patterns like having one database for all the microservices where rollback is easy, but still rollback in different microservices becomes difficult and the logging becomes difficult. So now here comes the rescue again, the Saga design pattern with Orchestrator, but using some custom tools like Temporal, which make sure that you will always be in consistent state and that too very quickly. So this is how you can use a custom orchestrator or Temporal to provide strong consistency, at least a quick consistency, and provide compensations as soon as required. Also, you have to make sure it happens only once. Suppose you do not have the option to retry with 2 idempotent transactions being repeated twice. What will happen? You gave 500 rupees to one person. Suppose it failed for once, but when you retry it, it happened twice. Then you ended up debiting 1000 rupees rather than 500. So it is very important to have a single transaction in a banking operation. To make this possible, you can use Kafka, because Kafka makes sure it happens in a sequence and it happens only once. So it's read-only only once from one partition at a time, because it acknowledges its offset. That is why as soon as it acknowledges the offset, it makes sure, okay, I have taken your request to delete and debit 500. I will not do and receive the same partition again to debit 500. So this is where Kafka comes into picture in such case of consistency requirement. The idempotency is again something you can take it and add it into the database, that this is the order ID and this is where 500 rupees has to be deducted. Now, since 2PC is too heavy and not scalable, we avoid transactions with 2PC. Instead, we mostly rely on compensation logic, manual interpretation for edge cases, and reliable messaging like Kafka and retries. So if you say 2PC heavily extensively used with microservice, that's a bad design, truly speaking. Now, there are some real-world examples. Suppose a customer initiated a transfer from UI. The transfer orchestrator or the Temporal will use its activities and workflows to debit the service from your account. It goes to the credit service via Kafka. It updates and emits the event, and Saga completes. If credit fails, the debt compensation occurs. And if you make it through Temporal, it makes sure that it starts from where it failed. So that's the benefit of using Temporal. If you want to know more about Temporal, let me know in the comment section. I'll create another video for Temporal only for this situation. So if in an interview it is being asked, you say in banking system, we prioritize consistency and auditability. So that's where we use orchestrated Saga rather than choreography Saga for maintaining the long running transactions like fund transfer. Each services, we make sure that they are idempotent and event driven with outbound specs, patterns and Kafka utilizations for safe event delivery and making it in sequence and only once to ensure the data accuracy. And strong observability and traceability is also must have when we have the microservice implemented in banking situations. So this is how you answer such questions. Just asking, telling about 2PC will give a very bad interview impression, because 2PCs with microservices is not scalable. It's not for heavy load and you will always die in the production with that. That's all. For more such real-time interview questions on microservices, let me know in the comment section. I'll create more such videos for you. Thank you.